Yes, as this unmistakable music begins, why do I choose Motley Crue? They were talking about Motley Crue at the end of the Dan Patrick show. Said it wasn't good for ice dancing. Motley Crue is good for anything. I actually think that instead of handshakes, we should bite people hello, just like the guys in Motley Crue once did before. The Dirt. Let's get Neil Strauss on here. Now, there's a male audience that you can get right now. Neil Strauss, person who has written about both Motley Crue and Jenna Jameson. Man after my own heart. Got to try to get him on here again. I remember once trying to talk to him very much. He actually returned my message, but after I called him a million times to try to talk to him about The Dirt and some story ideas I wanted to write about Strauss and such. But great writer and all that. One of the great books about rock and roll history, The Dirt. History of Motley Crue. If you don't read it, you are not officially a child of the 80s. I do not care what. All right, let's talk about being a child of 2018. Let's talk about the contemporary. And it is Back to the Future with the going out of business Oakland Raiders, certainly. But Jon Gruden, and again, just to repeat my statement here, I really wonder if it wasn't for the interest from Tennessee, if he would be an NFL coach right now. I wonder if that didn't get him into the mix. He'd been out of it for 9 years. We know we're going to have Monday Night Football at least until 2021. That's when the ESPN contract ends. So that's, 4 more years. Then he's almost 60 with a lot of money in a bank. And he can sit back and retire if he wants. Of course, Gruden is the guy who can't watch a movie at regular pace. It's very famous that back in the days of VHS, his wife, the former Tennessee cheerleader, used to say, he can't watch a movie. He's got to, if we rent a video, we actually watch it all in fast forward. I don't know how you get the sound then. I guess there are a lot of car chase movies. What kind of movies are you watching there, John? But anyway, he is getting back into coaching, he says, because he is talking about how he wants to save football. It's losing its soul, he says. We have to put a GPS in Bobby's shoulder pad to see if he's working too hard. We stop a high school game in Florida 3 times every half to give him a water break. We run a zone read every play in college. Don't even block the defensive end. We read him because players can't push themselves. Boy, this sounds like starting pitching in the major leagues, huh? It's too risky. Somebody had an episode 6 years ago. Anyway, the Lord sees these guys and said, we got a problem with football. I need you guys to go back to earth and fix this. Gruden tells Price he believes on a personal mission to save football. The person in Price's SI Price of Sports Illustrated. Got a 10-year deal worth about $100 million, which is shy of just about the salary any coach makes this side of Nick Saban. And he talks about how he has donated money to high schools to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for youth and prep football teams. I had to run through the line, not to it. My coach made me do it right. And I hated it at times, but if it wasn't for football, I wouldn't have had any of these benefits. These geniuses tell you it's a dangerous game and we shouldn't play, but I say bull. And actually, it's a 2-syllable word, but I want to keep the FCC license. C.H. Hatham is really going to... Who do I think Fox will put into the booth for Thursday night football? Good question, because you don't think that it would be a circumstance of, putting the number 1 crew, would you? You kind of would think that Buck and Aikman still be on that Sunday game, and then they look to move up to the up-and-comer. Peyton Manning, I'll say this. There seems to be a demand for Peyton Manning, be it on Thursday Night Football or be it on ESPN. Manning, though, has a little bit more company man to him. And I think for that reason, maybe he might shy away or be just a little more cool to ESPN. Now, maybe I'm totally wrong about that. After all, one of the great promos in the history of ESPN was Peyton, Eli, Archie, Cooper, Mrs. Manning, all of that, and the Peyton and Eli are hitting each other in the back, acting like little brothers. I mean, it's beautiful. It is so original. It is so great as they get a tour of ESPN. So I can't imagine that Manning is anti-ESPN, but you do think that, Fox, NFL Network, certainly not going to be as critical of a sport that, well, when he retired, what did Peyton Manning say? God bless football. That might be your... I have no inside knowledge, but that's just a take right there. By the way, I mentioned Jon Gruden saying he's on a mission to save football, and that's why he's going in to coach again. He also will be on a mission eventually to give the sport to the fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, that being said, he is an Oakland Raider. He coached the Oakland Raiders a decade ago, coached against them in the Super Bowl. The only success that the Raiders have had really since, I don't know, Marcus Allen was running the ball. And I do remember, I think the Raiders, they did make the AFC title game, in 1990, and got beat 51-3 by the Bills. And I seem to remember another appearance in the playoffs a few years later, and they also got beat by the Bills. Todd Marinovich was not the answer, got beat by the Chiefs. So in the early 90s, I guess they had some success there under Art Shell, but nothing like a Super Bowl. They've been to the Super Bowl once since, Super Bowl 18, 1983. We had Jack Spyrick on this show not long ago. Anyway, what we're getting to is, of course, Gruden is well aware. I mean, you don't get the job without knowing that you're going to move to Las Vegas. That goes without saying. But Oakland is in a tough spot. Of the cities of the Bay Area, it's always been looked at as something of the poorer community, although, I mean, my goodness, that report coming out about what, downtown San Francisco is like, having the cleanliness of a third world country. Perhaps Oakland can now, put its chest out a little bit more. But anyway, they will be losing to Raiders, basically because in this day and age of every team wants its own yard, sharing the Coliseum is no longer a viable option. It's the venue that actually brought the A's from Kansas City those many years ago, and when it was refurbished, brought the Raiders back from Los Angeles, but now it's no longer tolerable. And the Raiders very selfishly told the city of Oakland, hey, either the A's or us, and being 81 dates versus 10, the city of Oakland said, the A's, by the way, we don't really appreciate having a gun put to our head. We've been scorned by you before. We know your tactics, Ms. Davis family. So anyway, the other thing, the Golden State Warriors are going to move from Oakland to a new arena in San Francisco. Of course, they used to be the San Francisco Warriors in the old Rick Barry days. You've got that great logo that they used to have, the city with the Golden Gate Bridge on it and so on. So Oakland's pro sports landscape is going to be a lot less crowded. By the way, about that, I will say this. Although it does hurt in terms of tax revenue and certainly the businesses in Oakland and such, you're not changing your fan base. There is something to be said about, let's say, the Giants moving from New York to New Jersey, or the Jets doing it as well. I do get that. Or for that matter, the Nets moving from New Jersey to Brooklyn. I mean, we get that. You've got more taxes coming into the community, but it's still generally the same fan base. You can kind of argue maybe with the Nets it isn't so much, but you know what? It is. The Nets, they're moving to Brooklyn. They're not moving to, Johnson City. They're not moving to Pittsburgh. They're not moving to, who else doesn't have an NBA team? St. Louis. You can still follow it. Anyway, what we are looking at here is Jon Gruden mentioned this. Soon the Raiders, he told this to Sports Illustrated, soon the Raiders will leave for Vegas. He's closing in on the team facility now, as this article in Sports Illustrated writes. And he says, it's kind of sad, man. You think? What will they have once we go? which I say all the time. That's why I'm opposed to franchise relocation. I mean, the Oakland Raiders, it's one of the great iconic brands of American sports. And to make this hostage, well, as I've said, it not only breaks the hearts of Oakland and your longtime home, the people that made your franchise, your fans, because you don't like the stadium anymore. That's not their fault. It's never the fans' fault when a team moves, by the way. It's always the owners. But you're no longer becoming, or you're no longer going to be, when you move from Oakland to Las Vegas, the team of that, hardcore West Coast rap. No. Las Vegas Raiders, that's the team of Steve and Edie. Anyway, and it is also, as C.H. Adam mentions here on Facebook, you're moving from one of the top markets, a top 5 market in the Bay Area, to the 40th market, a growing one in Las Vegas, but it's going to be a long time before they're the Bay Area. But Gruden asks, what will Oakland have once we go? And the Warriors. The Oakland A's have stepped up to the plate and says on Twitter, this is great, Oakland will have the Athletics, the club with the 3rd most championships in Major League Baseball. Well, that goes back to the Philadelphia days, but no, we get what you're saying. And then hashtag rooted in Oakland. The Oakland A's, they're winning the battle right there of the Bay Area. You got to hand it to them. That's decent marketing right there. And I don't really think it's a pot shot from Gruden. I actually think he's being a little romantic to Oakland, and it's good to hear. But it's good to see the A's take notice. Well, that's some of the baseball news that I was going to have. I'll have more baseball news for you tomorrow, as well as Brian McInnes, who voted ETSU for the top 25 from Honolulu.
The Irwin, 1420 NBC.